tournament settings, and I do believe we're going to be getting picks and bans up, and I'm just going to finish that point quickly. And they look so phenomenally good. I don't think I've ever seen GAMERS2 look bad except against old NIP.
Yeah, I could kind of agree with you in that. And we are in the picks and bans. So we are on 4.11. We're on the live client. So it's everything you guys are playing in-game yourselves now in solo queue. So bans coming out. Yasuo normally would be a mid-centric ban, but I actually feel this is against JWoww. Typically, he just picks a damaged top laner.
I don't think I've seen Ocelot run Yasuo either. And that's actually one of the big questions. Haven't seen GAMERS2 doing all that much of late. Going to be interesting to see if Ocelot has picked up any new champions, since his old staples, LeBlanc, for instance, and Nidalee, aren't really options for him anymore, or at least LeBlanc is still functionally very similar, but lacking the silence. She really does lack a lot of that kill potential and setup potential for the rest of her team. Whereas Nidalee is just completely reworked and is a completely different champion.
Yeah, and looking at a couple of the other bans that have come out, Gragas is a champion that hasn't seen a lot of bans recently, but right now is a little bit of an ambiguous champion. Yeah, he's on the up. We've seen a lot of Gragas top lane in the last couple of weeks. Yeah. And also in LCS this week, in
Gragas
Super
Jungle,
Week, there was a Gragas Jungle, but 40 games in Super Week, or some ridiculous number of games in Super Week, means picking the exact game sometimes is a little bit difficult.
Tricky.
But yeah, that is indeed the case. And Lulu banned as the last one. That lets the jungle priority pick there of Lee Sin through, and it is Morden, so it's to be expected.
So we are currently, obviously, on 4.11. Kayle is open. She was nerfed. Is that enough to put people off her? Lulu is out of the picture as well. So a top lane Kayle would be a really potentially strong lane bully, certainly on the old patch, and I still suspect on the new.
That is pretty interesting.
Nerfs, though.
Yeah, it was that the adjustment on Righteous Fury, the scaling on it, and
her attack speed.
And the attack speed, yeah. So there were a couple of little things changed. I say little. It was halved, the ratio, so I could go along with that one. But Twisted Fate, we've seen him on the rise again, and at this point is the first pick prioritized out of reason. Yeah,
and there's still a couple of good options open here. There's Ziggs available here. That could be picked out, and actually we may see that picked against him, but simply because it'll enable him to push really, really hard and siege very effectively against Twisted Fate if he roams. But yeah, you're right. Twisted Fate, not a champion that's always popular, but when he's good, he's really good. Picking a Kog'Maw into a Twisted Fate, although Kog'Maw is now very, very high priority simply by virtue of the fact that all hypercarries are now extremely strong, if you pick him into Twisted Fate, you are saying basically gank bot a lot. Morgana. That makes sense.
Yeah, okay, that makes a fair amount of sense there, and is actually the beginning of quite a nice composition for protecting the Kog'Maw. And I'll be honest, I was reading a tweet, and I can't for the life of me remember who it was, and I wish I could. It was North American Pro during LCS last week that was saying picks and bans is becoming pretty obvious on if red side ban Lee Sin, they probably want to play Kog'Maw. If blue side don't, they want to first pick Lee Sin and pick Kog'Maw. So it tends to be one of those things that Lee Sin's pretty good at undoing a Kog'Maw. You obviously can land that kick, get him into the fight. Very difficult for him to escape.
Yeah, GAMERS2 have, of course, taken the option of picking it away. And it works quite well with a protect the Cog composition as well. I actually have to question right now why Reason Gaming here have opted to go with the Zyra. Okay, so as a follow-up to a Jarvan, that could actually work, because as it is, it seemed like they were picking the Zyra for the counter-engage against a Kog'Maw who wants to kite them back anyway and will out-DPS them if they just stay at range.
So something I actually am interested in, if we saw a Kayle Orianna here, on 4.10, that's 100% what I'd be expecting. At this point, it would be Kayle Orianna for the solo laners, because to protect Kog'Maw. I wonder how Kayle in the top lane will be affected by those nerfs and whether she's as good as a top laner anymore to help protect. And that's very different from what we would normally see on 4.10.
Okay, so Ryze... One of the things about Protect the Kog'Maw compositions is you always want another threat somewhere. You always want at least one, and Kayle does actually fill that role very well, or certainly did. Again, haven't necessarily seen as much of her, but obviously GAMERS2 are not rating her nearly as highly here, locking the Rise, but they've locked its blind, and they're up against a Jarvan here. Super aggressive jungle gangs, super aggressive laner if they pick Aatrox. That is potential, especially if they then pull 2v1s for massive diving, really shutting it down early.
And funnily enough, it's one of those weird things that Aatrox is actually really good against Rise. He's one of those sustained top laners that, isn't particularly good at the very beginning of the game or the very end. He's just kind of one of those safe top laners, provided you get the matchup like this. Yes. He's not always safe, but against a Rise, he'll feel pretty confident past the first few levels.
Couple of levels on him. And one of the things about super early game Rise against super high sustain like Aatrox, because Rise in the early game laning phase just chips you down slowly. Q, W, etc. Every time you try and CS. Aatrox, because his sustain below half health is so high, Rise can't burst him down unless perhaps he takes Ignite, but then you're foregoing the teleport. And that gives you the ability to just sustain all the way through his mana pool, being a resourceless champion. So, and then obviously you get the all-in potential when he's out of mana, or if he's just overexposed by just jumping in, getting the slowdown, and sticking to him with that W. So, a lot of potential in that lane. Will we be seeing a 2v1 though? Because Kog'Maw Morgana tells me they don't really want to be going up against a Zyra Lucian lane directly. They might be able to.
That's something we'll have to kind of watch out for, because of course the other changes that came into 4.11 and recent changes, dragon changes, tower damage changes, so less of that kind of diving with a jungler in a 2v1 situation. You're going to see a little bit less of that, because now I believe turrets used to take 3 shots to ramp up in damage completely, but now it's only 2. They took the 3rd shot, put the damage in half, and gave it to the first 2. So towers now hit incredibly hard. Yeah,
it scales up very, very quickly. But that's one of the things about the Aatrox pick is it doesn't really matter if it's scaling up, because you will still be resetting it when you go down with that passive up. Obviously, you don't want to use your passive if you can avoid it, but the option is still definitely available. And as long as you're in and out very, very quickly, the scaling up quicker doesn't matter too much. It's still a factor, but it's not the biggest factor.
I'm wondering what your thoughts are on this composition of GAMERS2 right now, because I must admit I've been casting a lot of NIP on 4.10, and they were running Rengar with pretty much 3 supports with a Kog'Maw. So Rengar was the other threat, because Ku would go huge. And then you'd have a Kayle, Lulu, Orianna, Kayle, Nami, Orianna, or Lulu instead of Orianna. So I wonder what your thoughts are on having Rise as another threat in the late game, and then Fizz. Fizz seems to me maybe a little bit out of place.
It's primarily based around countering out the Twisted Fate lane, I feel.
Right.
It's less about the composition. I mean, Fizz is still not a bad thing to have, because he can seriously threaten almost anyone, actually, especially if the Jarvan builds squishy. He's actually, early game, that Jarvan is going to be a burst target, potentially, because he doesn't tend to get tanky till later on. Getting that Fizz to work with the composition in the super late game, if they get there, may not be the biggest factor, though, because at that point, they're already at this huge double threat composition with a pretty decent amount of peel as well from the Morgana and the Lee Sin. So I think it can work for them. And I think it's just a concession towards not allowing the game to snowball against them in the early mid-game.
Yeah, I actually can see it. I mean, thinking of maybe other teams to kind of compare it with, Super Hot Crew have been doing this a fair amount. When they ran like Rise, I think it was Rise Kog'Maw with, who was their mid laner right then? Because I remember that Selfie was running somebody that was also another damage threat slightly earlier into the game. I unfortunately can't remember it off the top of my head, but that was pretty effective, having that Rise Kog'Maw. In fact, it was Kassadin with it, and that was incredibly late game scaling.
That's Kassadin as well.
Because it was one of those compositions where you can like pick 2 threats, but the other one is always going to clean you up if you ignore them.
Yeah, there's this. You always play this sort of strange game in Champions League where you're trying to pick enough divers to deal with the number of threats, but you don't want to commit too heavily on divers or they'll get too much peel.
Yeah,
it's sort of a strange, back and forth between the two of them. So I believe we will have the game up
Yeah.
pretty soon.
We are nearly into the game, so just a quick minute to remind you guys about FACEIT and the FACEIT platform. So make sure you head over to FACEIT.com, get yourself signed up there, because I believe we'll be giving more information throughout the broadcast, guys. Don't worry, but that's where you can play League of Legends with the new league system, as you see on your screen. Now get yourself signed up. We'll be giving you more information about a couple of little raffles and giveaways that we'll be doing as we go through the tournament. But it is game number 1 between GAMERS2 and Reason Gaming. And I say game number 1, it is a best of 1 here in the group stage.
Yes, of course. So the only result is a 1-0, one way or the other, unless we get to 2 hours and then it crashes or something like that. But I'm not expecting that to happen. That's not the most likely outcome.
No. Oh, we do have a pause, though.
Typical.
So that's somewhat to be expected with the first game of the day.
Yes. Got to get your key binding set up.
Well, I would
You
hope
actually
key
can you
bindings on
check-
live would be
Well, you
set
never
up,
know. Maybe someone's moved house.
I would hope that the key bindings are all fine with regards to that. It looks like it was us Morden that needed to reconnect. One of those first game of the day jitters. Either that or
Yeah,
GAMERS2
JWoww.
are having some serious problems, because that was also JWoww. That's not a good sign.
I don't want to say anything about IP addresses.
Yeah, that's okay. Well, hopefully GAMERS2 can fix that. Hopefully it's just like a spot of lag
Yes.
as opposed to anything
We
perhaps
do have a
more
gaming house,
sinister.
of course. So if their internet is in trouble, then they all have trouble.
Yeah, that's one thing that is kind of one of those double-edged swords
Yes.
of a gaming house.
I mean, in
is-
fairness, it's not like you're going to win a 4v5 anyway. So in many ways, you're just making the risk. You're actually making the risk smaller, I guess, logically.
I guess you just don't have to put your teammates through the arduous task of attempting to win a 4v5.
That is torture, for reference, especially in competitive play. I think I've seen it once or twice where teams have had to just play on,
Yeah, I've seen that.
but it never ends well.
It's bad. I've casted those games, and I can tell you they are not fun games. Ah, okay,
Hey.
great. But speaking of fun games to cast,
Ooh,
how do you like that one?
well done.
Speaking of fun
Segueing
games,
in smoothly.
yeah, indeed. We are on to the Rift for GAMERS2 against Reason Gaming here for our first game of the day, our first game of the tournament out of Group A. So on the blue side, it is GAMERS2, and over on the red, with no clan tags and the wrong name, it's Reason Gaming.
Yes, that could get confusing because Maus is one of the teams that the lineup of previously Lublin Shore, previously MYM has been on in between those particular lineups. So forgive me if I read the only tag that's actually there, because I'm not going to call one of the boosted.
I've done
That
that
would be a
so
strange
much.
tag.
I have always I always do that whenever casting Reason. The number of times I've defaulted to MYM, and they haven't even been on MYM in like 6 months. It's
It's
not a
been-
good thing.
Hasn't it been longer than that now?
I think it was like beginning of Challenger this season. I can't
okay.
quite remember off the top of my head, but it's our first game that we'll have brought to you on 4.11, and looks like the start of 4.10. To be honest,
Pretty
It's,
similar. I mean, most things to do with level 1s didn't really change. You've still
Yeah.
got the same trinkets, timings. You've still got the same, well, not necessarily the same stuff. We have actually seen this a couple of times now. The AD and support going to that bottom lane. It's basically just on the off chance that the enemy AD walks into lane a little bit early to try and reach the minions first, because obviously pushing advantage is an advantage, and then you punish that really, really hard, get some early damage, but it doesn't usually work. It's just a very low risk thing to do.
Yeah. So, blue starts out of both junglers. So, not going to see that kind of convergence in the top lane that sometimes we have seen. So, that's something that we'll have to kind of look at as it goes along. Typically, you've seen a lot of junglers start on the bottom side of the map, but it is, a blue start for both.
Of course, the Reason do actually know that the blue start has happened for Morden. Artrux did walk up there and get a little bit of vision of at the start, whereas Jarvan is more of a man of mystery right now. We have some trading, but that does give them a couple of options. It means that Jarvan, for instance, going for an early gank on top is a lot less risky now, since he'll know that Lee Sin is very unlikely to have path there at the level 3, is also around the time when Artrux will want to be all-inning. So You may see that happen.
Yeah, we'll keep our eyes up there. He's hit level 2 first, however, so JWoww may be in a little spot of bother at that level 3 mark if he doesn't end up getting there at the same time. But again, that's something we'll have to keep on top of. And a slow start, no invades, standard lanes. Feels reminiscent of days gone by.
Yes, it does. 2v2s. We have had a few patch changes orientated towards creating 2v2s, I feel.
Yes, just a couple.
Just a couple. Maybe. And then they ended up undoing the damage reduction one because it was actually furthering the 2v1. Oh well.
Top lane, however, there's the Rune Prison, but look at the damage turned back onto Aatrox. That I don't think that Kubon was really expecting that, and you could see neither was the rest of Reason.
He has done the early push out here, though. He's got teleport. He is not going to be using it. He is going right for this.
Oh, Jarvan looks at the flag and drag, gets the Dark Blade as well. Flash is down, and Kubon will drop into the Blood Well. He's only got enough for maybe a turret shot, but it's actually Morden that is taking down. Kubon has died.
Tried to go out the back way. Turned out the back way was full of tower shots.
Yeah, those towers do more damage now.
Yes, he may have been caught out by that.
I think he may have, because, Dark Binding in the bottom lane, not really going to be too much coming from that. But I kind of said it as it was going. His Bloodwell was only enough for one turret shot. So I guess maybe he just... I don't know. I don't have a... Yeah.
He goofed. He goofed, I think. And with that now happened, that early vision advantage from Jarvan has not translated into an advantage in the top lane. Ryze has picked up an early tier. He'll be able to start getting that farmed a little bit sooner. They now need a gank up top in order for Aatrox to do okay in that lane, which obviously focuses where Jarvan is going to be. Fortunately for Reason Gaming, however, their bot lane right now is actually doing pretty alright. Yuki has been fairly heavily harassed in this lane, whereas Makler is doing alright for himself. But they're not building up a big advantage early, and that's what you need to do against COG. But it does mean they don't need Jarvan right this instant.
Gotta remember that that's Zayu on Jarvan.
Yes.
It's,
that is an interesting name he has.
It is, and it also explains why when I was searching for Zayu earlier on LOLgame, it didn't
found
appear.
an unrated account, I think.
Yeah, I was like, what is this player that's called Boosted Trash? Why is he coming up when I search for Zayu? But that now makes somewhat sense. But that is a good start out of GAMERS2, and really they should not have picked up that early double kill.
No. Maybe I can see the one kill. Morden was there at just the right time to go for that counter gank, which was a really nice play by him. But probably shouldn't have been able to kill both of them. And he's taken a lot of harassment. No passive now, remember. That means JWoww has so much more kill threat on him. He has to be a lot more careful.
And here comes Morden in from the side. They're going to wait the Dark Flight out, and all of the skills are going to land. All you got to do is wait that Q.
That is a really, really bad start for the Aatrox. He's going to be a long way behind for a long, long time, and he may never get to the point where he can threaten Ryze solo now, which somewhat defies the whole point of the pick.
Yeah, it really, really does. And when you pick a champion that has that extra life passive or part of the kit, dying early on kind of makes your whole laning phase even worse than just a kill in a normal lane would do, because the passive is built into the kit and the rest of the kit is adjusted to kind of make you play around the passive being up. Yeah. So it's even more treacherous when it's down. Yeah,
it's like Anivia, for instance. Very, very difficult to kill in lane, especially if you're solo, because you literally can't DPS her down in egg form. But once the egg has been blown, her base health is awful. She's really, really squishy comparative on her first life. So if you don't have a second life, you have to be so careful not to go anywhere near your opponent in that lane.
Yeah, indeed. And I mean, 0-2 on Aatrox. Thankfully, he has a 10 CS lead, but that isn't really too much. Here goes Twisted Fate up into the top lane, lands the gold card onto JWoww, but that is a JWoww that is taking a while to die here. He should end up falling from the gold card, but it was the TF ult used, but a good use of it.
Yeah, a couple of summoners there used by Twisted Fate, though. He is going to lack the flash and the exhaust, so keep an eye on the mid lane when he gets back in there. Fizz just picked up his blue. Fizz has his flash and ignite and ult up. And that means Twisted Fate has to now play very, very cautiously.
Interesting to see the exhaust being picked up on TF. A lot of TFs recently, yeah, it's against the Fizz. I was going to give you the opportunity to say that in a second. I was going to say that a lot of Twisted Fates recently have been running Ghost Flash for that extra mobility and then getting distortion boots quite early on in the game. So, as you rightfully pointed out, against the Fizz, though, there's so much damage.
You want to not die.
Yeah.
That is the gimmick there. And he is going to have to watch himself on that front because GAMERS2 know the blue timer or can guess it.
Oh, Take Fun.
And he wants it. Take Fun wants it.
He does. But are they?
Oh.
This
they have suspected. And they have pink warded the blue, and now it looks like GAMERS2 are actually... Wait, where is... Okay, there's Take Fun. I was a little bit confused for a second there, thinking Take Fun had gone really far out into the lane, and that was why I couldn't see him, but no. Looks like they'll be able to pass this across, as long as they're quick about it.
I didn't catch that. Were there any wards that were watching over there for Reason Gaming? Because that was either incredible intuition, or it was something as obvious as there was a ward and I just didn't see it.
I did not catch the sight of a ward to cover the actual area where GAMERS2 were hiding, but if both of them go missing for that long, there's always that a little bit of a fear of where they might be. And ganking a Twisted Fate on his way to a blue buff is not a new thing. It's not a cunning ploy, it's standard practice. He's very vulnerable to that.
Now they're going to try it on the red buff, is the other thing. They're actually going to try and steal this one away.
Surely.
But the standard out from Jarvan is going to be enough to spot that out. And I say draw an end to that, but...
No. Okay, sorry. I thought... No, he did get it.
Yeah, Jarvan did get it. Jarvan smites that away. Morden wasn't able to get the smite in time. It was a good smite.
It was a really good smite. I am impressed. Well done, Zayu.
Yeah, they've got to be a little bit careful because this is a lot of pressure that Morden has been putting onto the jungle. Cataclysm has been used, looking for the wild cards. Couldn't get it, but they did force a flash.
Yeah, that's a nice little bit of usage there. And honestly, quite a good Dragon's Rage as well, timing it after Jarvan had landed the Cataclysm. Wait, he doesn't have a CC immunity, does he?
Pardon?
Jarvan used to have, when he Cataclysm was in the animation, he was immune to CC. Is he still immune to CC in that animation?
It's a good question.
It looked like the Dragon's Rage from Morden was actually timed to kick back.
Top lane, however, JWoww, after the Destiny Gate has come out from Take Fun Exhaust to slow him a little bit. Take Fun looking for the gold cards. Oh, the vision has dropped, so not quite able to get it yet. And JWoww gets away.
That's expensive. That was Destiny and the Exhaust again used by Take Fun just to, well, okay, to achieve absolutely nothing, waste his own time. That's just harass. But that really wasn't a very good Destiny. And you saw Take Fun actually was left chasing after him, unable to get the first stun card off, got the Exhaust down, and still couldn't get the second stun card down. They both timed out.
Not the best of ganks there out of Take Fun, and you can see that Ocelot is already going to use that to his advantage as soon as he got into lane, knowing that Twisted Fate now doesn't have that exhaust, so he's pretty able to just go all in that middle lane. So that's something we'll keep our eyes out for, and Morden, for the first time in this game, is looking to get in towards this bottom lane here.
Yeah, that would not be surprising. Worth noting, of course, Yuki, in spite of that early slight advantage that was the help of Makla, has not translated into a CS advantage, and now, of course, not translated into anything else. Whoa! That was ballsy.
I said Ocelot kind of was going aggressive in the lane, but I think that's a little too aggressive.
Yeah, I think he meant to Playful Trickster a little bit quicker and dodge the stun card, but I don't believe you can twist... Close.
He's baited him in, however. Oh, good Playful Trickster on that one. Flashes out of the Cataclysm. Really nice escape.
Yeah. So as I was saying, I don't believe you could Playful Trickster immediately out of the Urchin Strike animation. And that was the opportunity that Take Fun used to get the stun card down, which obviously meant he then took a lot of power damage for the privilege.
Back to this top lane. It's gone a little bit quiet recently, although I say top lane. Here maybe comes Zayu into this bottom lane, looking out for that potential gank, but GAMERS2 a little too close to their turret, a little too around the corner. But top lane's quietened down a bit in the last couple of minutes. And I wonder what your thoughts are on this matchup as it stands.
Well, honestly, right now, Aatrox is playing the catch-up game still. He's actually managed to keep himself roughly even on CS, and you can see he's getting quite a bit of his sustain now. JWoww is having a hard time harassing him out completely. And it's easier to, it is frankly easier to CS on Aatrox, which is also just a nice little bonus and part of why he's kept up. But the problem is, you need to shut the Ryze down. He's only 1 and 2, yes, but I can't actually see what tier stacks he has. He's probably up to a couple of 100 now, though, and that's starting to get to dangerous territory. He's on track for, say, the 20-minute Seraph's Embrace. That is scary potential. When you get the Rod of Ages as well, you've got a very big threat who's also starting to get very, very tanky.
Yeah, I'll check the tier stacks in just a second, but for now, it's a little too much going on right now with Zayu in the enemy jungle. There's Destiny used as well. Where's he going? Top lane again. Another gank up into this top lane. JWoww this time not likely to get away. The next gold card will be crucial. It came up gold as the first card. Luckily had the vision in the push. But, however, Dragon has been started by Gamers2. They're going to try and trade away. The culling has been used here. Looking for the binding. Couldn't quite get it on Jarvan, but they have stopped the Dragon.
And that's really nice for them because they can leave Twisted Fate in the top lane. They're not going to lose out on farm in mid. Jarvan will be there to pick up the XP. They get to stop the JWoww farm. They get to be... they are able to now take the tower, and they have defended the dragon so they don't lose out on that trade, as well as getting that kill. That was really, really nice. So, very good showing there for Reason Gaming, and that puts them very minorly in the lead. But it also means Aatrox is now free to roam, while Ryze still hasn't really hit the big power spikes.
One of the deadliest things, though, I kind of feel of taking that tower is they now potentially can give him a freeze and give him free farm from there as well, which on a Ryze is not something you want to happen. So it's on Reason right now to make sure they get him into the game.
Yeah, they need to make something happen across the map. What I would expect is the bot lane dive, 4 versus 2, especially if they can engineer that. With the Aatrox, they could get that to work very much in their favor. And of course, they could try and make sure that Fizz isn't available by clever usage of the Destiny. So if they could get that to work for themselves, that would work really, really well. If not, they may be forced to make a more risky play deeper into the enemy territory and actually try and force Ryze to unfreeze.
Yeah, he's actually not opting to freeze right now either, so I think knowing that the dragon is up means he's going to have to be called upon soon, or he'll try and trade here, but dragon goes down in favor of Reason. No movement out of Gamers2, so they're going to just let that happen. They have shoved quite a sizable wave up there.
They did get the flash out of Take Fun there. They landed the Lee Sin Q and he had to get himself out.
However, Stranglethorns, he's going to catch Diu. Thought he was out of it, binding onto Makla. However, the culling was still going and Yuki has just shredded through and let Diu take it there. However, is the teleport out of Ryze, and Gamers2 go 1 for 0.
Bad signs when the Cogmore is this strong this early, and this is going to be a tower. There is no way that Libic can defend that. So, no real momentum gained from that top. And now it's Gamers2 who have got the ball in their court.
Yes, indeed. But that does, as we were mentioning, mean that now that teleport has been used, Ryze is a little less able to just sit in a lane farming it out. So that is one thing to keep in mind. So it's not really going to give JWoww that little bit of respite that he wants. But Ocelot, look at the work he's already done on that middle tower. That is another good sign there for Gamers2.
Yeah, there's a lot of pressure because even in the lane that Twisted Fate is ostensibly winning, he may not.
Oh dear, Aatrox gets caught by a rune prison, forced to Dark Flight over the wall, but not before taking half of his health.
Yeah, that's not going to make life easy for him because yes, he can go back and sustain it off the jungle creeps, but now he's not really in a good position to be making anything happen. He's not available for dives, for example. So, are they going to try and make a play on this mid tower? Fizz did just recall. There's a lot of members in the area. But are they going to actually try and siege it? Looks like the answer to that is no.
I'm going to look for the stacks. 476 right now.
Okay, so when I said Seraph's Embrace earlier, I meant fully stacked here, by the way.
Yeah.
Because obviously you have to pay for the Seraph's Embrace, which is probably not something he'll have at 20 minutes unless he does pick up a quadra kill in the near future, which I'm not expecting. Doesn't usually happen.
Bottom lane, there may be a bit of a catch here. Oh, the massive damage. Yuki picks up the kill there. Ocelot sets that one up.
Yeah, frankly, an unnecessary chum the waters. That was just too much damage for a squishy Zyra to deal with. Didn't even bother using Stranglethorns because, well, you're going to die anyway. Why bother?
It's a good point. However, the dive may be onto JWoww, but I think Zayu took a little bit of damage there and was thinking, okay, Kubon not very healthy himself.
Yeah, Reason Gaming are being stymied. Whenever they are trying to make something happen, they just are not in the right numbers. They are being outpositioned on the map. And it is causing them to lose ground slowly, steadily. And remember, it's not just that they're losing ground.
Oh, what is Kubon doing?
Ow. It's also that they will be outscaled if they aren't careful.
In comes Ocelot from the side. They don't get the damage down. Oh, they do get the Ignite. Was just enough. Destiny has been used. Ocelot manages to get all the way through. Take Fun kick back in. Oh, Take Fun is going to fall as well. Stranglethorns has been used. He gets 2 from this. And GAMERS2 so far have the 1 kill. That's going to be the middle tower going down.
Yeah, almost certainly, unless Lucian can really go, no way, unless he's going to try and 1v5 it, and without the culling, not an option. So, Libic also took a lot of damage to get that Stranglethorns down, but they couldn't follow up on it. Again, Reason Gaming, not quite in sync.
Living Artillery is going to stop the recall. Libic will get picked up. That's what happens when you recall not behind your tower.
The Cogmore level 11 power spike, yo. Yeah. Far too much damage on those ultis at exactly that time.
And the added range, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, which does make them very difficult to avoid.
Which is always the infuriating thing when you're playing pre-11 Cogmore. Because you're thinking, man, if I had my full range on this, I'd probably get a lot of kills.
I could totally nail them, yeah. It's... AP Cogmore is a very strange thing. It's really just like mana battery Cogmore. One day I want to see someone build like a Muramana build. Maybe the new Muramana.
So, I wasn't going to say this because the tier that we have is going to likely go to a Seraphs, but I follow Last Shadow, the analyst for Super Hot Crew, on Twitter, and during their week last week where they were talking about, or where they were playing these Rise Cassidin Cogmore compositions, he was saying that Mimer should have been building Muramana in one game. I'll get to this point in a second. On Rise, actually, because it helps Rise's power push and just gives him extra mana. While it's not actually like optimum normally, when they had a Cassidin, when they had a Cogmore, when they had enough threats elsewhere, he was saying, as an option to kind of split push a little bit, it's something that could be used. And I'm sorry for taking this point because Libic is dead here as well, but just thought that might be a little bit of an interesting point to watch out for.
I suppose in that one very specific instance, because for the ladies and gentlemen at home, Muramana versus Seraphs is something where generally Destiny.
Oh, Destiny in the bottom lane. Do you...
Oh, it missed!
What? The wild cards didn't quite hit. There's the Chum the Waters. Take Fun is going to drop to Ocelot again.
Ocelot is now quite fed, for the record. And they are actually now starting to build up a real head of steam and catch people out, and they're establishing a great deal of vision control over the upper jungle. But going back to that whole Muramana thing, basically Seraph's Embrace is vastly better for team fighting, but it is true, Rise's tower damage does suck normally.
Yeah, that is very true. To be honest, I was more making it as a point after, you know, they've taken down Dragon. I was more making it as a point so that if you ever see Super Hot Crew with that build, that they're not going crazy, that it's actually like an analyst has told them that. So keep your eyes peeled on LCS.
I heard it on the internet from an analyst, so it must be true.
Exactly. That's all analysts are always right 100% of the time.
Yes.
Hey,
and I would love to count myself as an analyst. No. Well, kind of.
I was an analyst once.
How'd it go for you?
I said once.
Well, it's okay. Now we come up with half-formed analyses on the fly. So it's
okay.
all good. Ocelot is looking for Take Fun.
He's not going to find him, though.
No.
Because he's got to clear the wall, then get towards...
He's got the damage.
He has got the
legitimately
damage.
does. With DFG, I think he's got.
It's has he got the range to get over the wall, get into position?
John, the water's slow, so you
True.
throw it out, you close in eventually. Hope you don't get stun carded.
That is a good point.
But as it stands, he didn't. That wasn't. There was no bite on his figurative fishing line.
See, this is why it was once.
It's okay.
It's okay.
I'm pretty sure even Last Shadow makes mistakes, and I know that's a shocking thought to a lot of people.
Red team's turret has been
But
destroyed.
being Korean doesn't necessarily make you right all the time in League of Legends. Is he Korean? He lived in Korea.
He's lived in Korea for a very long time. Wow, that is 2.1
Oh boy.
thousand Destiny has been used. This is why you
This
see
isn't gonna work.
Twisted Fate into Cog and Take Fun. You got vision of Morden. You knew where he was. TP has come in from Rise, and now they're looking to chase on. Stranglethorn's nicely used in Tribush. He's going to zone out 2 members of GAMERS2 right now, but Reason have been cut away from their own tower. However, are they coming around the side? Makler takes a lot of damage, but so does JWoww in response. Kicks back into the team, does more than to try and get himself out of this one. But in from the side, Yuki is just laying down so much damage. Living Artillery, Ocelot over the wall, doesn't quite get the chun. The waters. Makler so low, wants to take out Yuki. Makler is trying to get away from Ocelot, trying to follow Kuban as well. Bloodwell is available. Icathian surprise drops him down. Ocelot times the playful trickster, but will fall to Makler. And that was a bit of a scrappy team fight. 3 for 3 overall.
Oh, dude!
Dark Blinding doesn't land.
He was quick to react to that. They had no vision in there, and he just saw the Dark Binding coming through the wall, got out the way in an instant. But even so, that was indeed, as you say, a very scrappy fight, especially by JWoww. He did not take account of the fact there would be a conga line of enemy opponents coming towards him, so he just said, someone is running at me, I'm going to hit them with all my skills. Then he got bursted down after 1 rotation, which is not a very good situation to be in as Rise. But in spite of that, GAMERS2 still came out on sort of top because they got some minion pushing done at the same time, and they basically did a terrible job in the actual team fighting.
I'm actually going to go and check how much damage they got done to this tower. Yeah, it wasn't even worth it. I mean, what I mean by that it wasn't even worth it was they stayed after the fight to push the tower. But they knew they were cut off from the rest of their team, so it looked like a little bit of miscommunication. And
oh boy.
Around the side here, and it would be a 5v2 if they wanted to take it. No teleport available either.
Dude, are you man enough to challenge the plant? He's not going to challenge it.
It's not a plant you want to go toe-to-toe with when there's 4 of the members standing right behind it. But looks like neither team really want the engage right now. Destiny has been used, so scratch that. Nice Dark Binding is going to leave Take Fun in place. However, it's bottom lane where part of the engagement is going on. They did manage to cancel that. Stranglethorns has been used. Nobody has fallen apart from Libic right now from that auto attack. But the follow-on engagement looks like it got disengaged from, but it may still be on for Take Fun. Manages to dodge the Sonic Wave. That should be the end.
Yeah, they oh no, it's not.
Ocelot forces the flash.
Now it's the end.
Now it's the end. Saying that might not be. So he's still around.
Never call it's the end. It's the secondary curse commentator.
That is true. It's like one of those times where you go, and he's dead, and he survives.
Thus far, I've been pretty correct about my predictions on Libic dying, but that's because he's an 0-5 Zyra, which means he is incredibly squishy.
I had not actually registered that he was 0-5. I've seen him die quite a lot, but I hadn't realized it was 0-5.
This is the penalty of the Zyra pick, especially against Fizz and Lee Sin, because you are just so vulnerable. If you put a foot wrong for even an instant, you are just dead if you don't have flash. And even sometimes if you do, especially if it's Fizz that's after you. So, yeah, he's been doing a lot of dying. That being said, he's actually kept up on XP decently well. And he's built Sorg Shoes, and he's building into a Haunting Guy, so he's actually going to be quite a big damage threat. And that is what Reason Gaming need right now. They just need as much damage as they can and hope that they can catch GAMERS2 out in an over-aggressive dive and really punish them hard for it.
Oh, Makler. This
Oh,
is not looking
boyo.
good for you. Chum, the water's thrown out. They know they're going to get the kill here anyway, so they just put it onto cooldown, deny him. And yeah, that damage is kind of insane. That's a 5-1-4 Blade of the Ruined King Trinity Force Cogmore.
Yep. It's also a DFG Fizz there that didn't use it. I think, I'd say it was about 50-50, the damage that was dealt there. And, you know, Fizz would have done more burst than Cogmore if he'd used DFG.
He didn't need to, though.
No, he really didn't.
And he even just... that ult getting thrown out, I think a lot of people will say, oh, you know, he missed his ult. As I said, they knew they had the kill if he didn't get away. So throwing it kind of to deter him from running forward secures the death 100%.
Yeah, Fizz ult is a pretty short cooldown anyway, so yep, this is starting to look pretty dusted and done for Reason Gaming. That is always one way that they can get some breathing room.
I don't think it actually benefits them in the game, though. That's.
I mean, they get time to think about how to get out of the situation, although, in all honest to God truth, I'm not sure what the plan would be at this point.
I think the problem now, and it's one of the strengths of this kind of composition, and maybe get your thoughts on it as we are about half an hour into the game. So at this point of the game for the composition, Fizz is a threat. Cogmore is a massive threat.
Yeah.
And Rise will pretty much always be a threat in the late game. So I'm wondering what your thoughts there on that of who do you choose to ignore?
You don't... Okay, this is the plan. You don't team fight.
Okay.
And that does require GAMERS2 to not force you to team fight, which they are very capable of doing. But if that does go to plan, you catch people out with the Twisted Fate
Right.
and the Jarvan.
Okay.
Maybe you can get some kills. You can actually see Twisted Fate has pretty much built himself towards catching a single target. He's gone for the Deathfire Grasp. He's gone for maximum single target burst. He actually forgot to use it last time I saw, but he's got huge potential to maybe half health, say a Cogmore who's out of position and farming. The problem is if GAMERS2 are smart, they will simply force team fights. They will force Baron. They will force towers. They will siege towers very easily. And they have the vision control to really make it very difficult to get those picks. So it's kind of just down to GAMERS2. Will they mess up at this point? It's possible. Honest, it happens.
That is the question. In quite a lot of games, actually, is, you know, do they make that decision that will cost them the game? Which, to be honest, they're in a very comfortable position.
Yeah, the margin for error, especially in a team fight for GAMERS2 right now, is enormous. In a team fight, because as you say, there's three big threats. If you're in a 5-on-5 fight, even if somehow, you know, even if it's like Cogmore disconnects and walks into the enemy team, like attack moves in, even if that happens, there's still so much damage and so much cleanup potential on their team. You're still way up against it.
Yeah, and they've got good disengage with the Zyra, they being Reason Gaming.
Yeah.
So regardless of how far behind Zyra is, you'll always have that for the first fight. However, it's then on GAMERS2 to get the next fight after, when the cooldowns aren't available, and we are going back into the game. So we will keep a track of that as we are back onto the Rift. It's GAMERS2 on the blue side, Reason Gaming on the red, and currently GAMERS2 have an 8,000 gold lead.
The trouble is, right now, for Reason Gaming, if they were ahead right now, they'd be diving a big target. They'd be diving for Cogmore with the Jarvan. Then they could follow it up with the Strangle Thing. So they could hit them with the wild cards, with the damage. They could really try and burst out a target and then look to burst out another target later on after the disengage from the Zyra. The problem is that if they, right now, if they butt heads with GAMERS2, you know, Aatrox goes in and then maybe flashes out, and Jarvan goes in and flashes out, and everyone's, you know, there's an engage that doesn't kill anyone, and then they disengage, that means GAMERS2 wins. Ooh. Their overall DPS is way higher.
Destiny was used there.
No one get.
I wonder whether that was just vision, because Twisted Fate was bottom side of the map. They wanted to see how many people were behind this turret. Oh, they're going to end up taking it. Soul Shackles. That's very aggressive attitude. Teleport came out from JWoww. And are they actually going to turn this around? This is a 3v4 engage here. They knew no teleport or destiny available. Mackler is going to get instantly dropped here, and Lucian will fall down. And that was super aggressive out of GAMERS2.
It was so... I mean, dude, that was just so unbelievably manly to go in like that. It's a miss on the waters. But... had that worked, had that actually not gone quite as well, if Ocelot had been maybe, out of position, not managed to catch that kill on Mackler, Yuki was actually forced to go in there without his W. They potentially could have lost that team fight had they maybe been just a little bit less, crisp on taking advantage of dude's engage there, because as you say, it was a 4v3 initially. And that's the kind of decision-making which GAMERS2 doesn't actually need to make to win this game, and which could potentially, even though it, in this case, actually further increased their lead, put them behind and maybe lose.
I mean, am I mistaken? Was that Yuki and Dude in the middle lane only, and then from the top came JWoww? So I believe that was actually like a 2v4 to start out. Yeah, which is incredibly risky, but again, they'd used Destiny. Wasn't available. They knew it wasn't going to be 5. And they knew they already had the teleport coming from JWoww. And you can see how strong GAMERS2 are right now. When you look at just team compositions overall, GAMERS2 in a game playing out how you'd expect it would only now be reaching their power point. They'd only now be edging ahead. However, they have a massive lead. So Reason are considerably further behind than their team composition should have them be.
Yep, that is simply the truth of the matter, and Reason have to find a way around that, or they will be going 0-1 in the group stages. Of course, there may be opportunities for them to try and rematch GAMERS2 later on if they are to lose this game. But now it looks like we might be about to see an engage. It is 4v5. GAMERS2 are very aware of that, and that's why they're keeping their distance.
Destiny is available, though, so if they can get Twisted Fate into the backlines, I don't think this tower's worth fighting over right now, though. If they can get Twisted Fate into the backlines, it could still work out, but look at Ocelot playing a split push. Dodges the gold card.
You're too slow. You just can't do it.
Living. Binding does land. Living Artillery is going to completely cut him off there, and a Dark Binding will pick up that first kill. Kubon's going to go in aggressive. I think this might just be Reason saying, if we don't do anything now, the game is over anyway.
Yeah, I agree with you on that one, and unfortunately for them, it does look like it might be over. Oh, that's a lot of damage from Playful Trickster.
That is a lot of damage.
Say, third of his health. Jarvan is dancing. Surrender vote. Okay, fair enough.
Yeah, and to be honest, as soon as you saw Libic die, I think Reason was saying the same that we were. Was that, this really game may be a little bit done here.
It's tough. I mean, there was just no avenue for them to come back into that. And as a result of that, that last-ditch fight, I think they were looking for a last-ditch fight before Libic got caught and murdered. In the end, they just had no options and took no options that worked.
Yeah, I feel like the composition out of GAMERS2 was everything they wanted in that game. They've looked very comfortable.
The only thing they could have possibly wanted for was laning power, but then they just outplayed, and especially that double kill, for instance, at the start, really messed up the Aatrox lane, which was the biggest power factor in the laning phase for Reason Gaming. And then suddenly, what have you got left? If you haven't got the lane, you've got nothing in that comp.
Yeah, that was a bit of a tough game if you are a Reason Gaming fan, but if you're a GAMERS2 fan, it's kind of a confirmation on their upswing again that we talked about. They're one of those teams that went quiet for a while, but now they seem to be coming back with force. And in our next game, I think maybe they'll face some of their more stiff competition in the group. SK Gaming Prime against GAMERS2 is going to be the next game of the day, and that is going to come back in just a couple of minutes' time, I believe. So we're going to get all the players into the game. We are going to get the lobby set up, get everything ready. So while we are on a quick break, big thanks to our friends at Alienware for powering this, as well as G2A and Overwolf. And make sure you head over to FACEIT.com, get yourself signed up, and we'll be bringing you information after the break on a couple of giveaways, a couple of raffles that we'll be doing throughout the duration of the tournament. So stick with us for information on that when we come back. But we'll be back in just a minute or two with GAMERS2 against SK Gaming Prime.